It started with a headache. Nothing unusual, nothing alarming. A mother of 6, Angela Craig brushed it off. Just another busy day, another moment lost in the chaos of family life. But the pain didn't go away. It lingered, then grew sharper, heavier, pressing down like an unseen force. Then came the nausea, the dizziness, the overwhelming weakness that left her unable to stand. Her husband, Dr. James Craig, watched as her body slowly gave in. He was a man of medicine, a trusted dentist in their Colorado community. He knew illness. He knew symptoms. And yet, he seemed unconcerned. Days passed, and Angela's condition worsened. She collapsed, was rushed to the hospital, her body betraying her in ways no one could explain. Doctors were puzzled. Tests revealed nothing. Friends and family prayed for her recovery, hoping this was just an unexplained illness, something that would pass. But Angela Craig never got better, and soon she would never wake up again. Her death was a tragedy, a devoted wife, a mother gone too soon, but this was no accident, and it wasn't fate. It was planned, calculated, carried out by the one person she trusted the most. In the days that followed, a chilling truth began to surface. A truth hidden in late-night internet searches, in secret orders placed online, in text messages that would become evidence of something far more horrifying than anyone could have imagined. What kind of man researches how much poison it takes to kill his wife? What kind of husband stands by, watching as she slowly fades, knowing he holds the answer to her suffering? What pushes a person to trade love for death? Angela Craig didn't die of natural causes. She didn't fall victim to an undiagnosed illness. She was poisoned again and again until her body could take no more. And the man responsible? He was standing right beside her, smiling, pretending, lying. Tonight, we pull back the curtain on a story that shocked a community, a case that exposed the hidden darkness behind a carefully crafted image. What was James Craig hiding? Why did he do it? And how did investigators uncover the truth? This is the story of Angela Craig and the husband who killed her. It started with a headache. Angela Craig had always been healthy. She was active, took care of herself, never one to complain about small discomforts. But this wasn't a normal headache. It was sharp, throbbing, relentless. Then came the nausea, dizzy spells, a feeling she couldn't quite describe, like her body was betraying her, like something inside her was shutting down. At first, she thought maybe it was stress, the weight of raising 6 children, the pressures of everyday life. Maybe she wasn't getting enough sleep, maybe she wasn't drinking enough water. But as the hours passed, her condition worsened. By nightfall, Angela could barely stand. Her vision blurred, her hands trembled, and then the first collapse. James Craig rushed to her side, concerned husband, devoted father. He helped her up, steadied her, his voice calm, reassuring. "You're probably just dehydrated," he told her. "Get some rest. You'll feel better in the morning." Angela wanted to believe him, but deep down, something didn't feel right. The next morning, she woke up worse. Her stomach churned, waves of nausea pulling her under. Her limbs felt heavy, unresponsive. It was as if her body was shutting down, piece by piece. When she tried to stand, the world spun. When she tried to speak, her words felt sluggish. She was terrified. That afternoon, James drove her to the hospital. Doctors ran tests, blood work, scans. Everything came back normal. Nothing made sense. There was no infection, no neurological disease. No reason why a healthy 43-year-old woman should be experiencing sudden and severe symptoms. Angela was sent home. But she didn't get better. She got worse. an illness with no name. Over the next few days, Angela's symptoms came in waves. One moment, she felt almost normal. The next, she was gasping for air, her body riddled with pain. James stayed by her side, attentive, caring. To everyone around them, he looked like the perfect husband. He made sure she had water, prepared her food, blended up her protein shakes. But what no one knew was that each sip was bringing Angela closer to death. As Angela's condition worsened, James continued going to work, running his dental practice as usual. His colleagues noticed something strange, an odd sense of detachment, as if he wasn't truly worried, as if he already knew where this was heading. And then, something else. In the middle of Angela's unexplained health crisis, James was making online purchases, late-night orders, items that, under normal circumstances, should never be found in a family home. But no one knew, not yet. Another collapse, another hospital visit. Days later, Angela collapsed again. This time, it was worse. Doctors ran another set of tests. Again, nothing. Her organs were shutting down, but no one could explain why. James stood beside her hospital bed, holding her hand, rubbing her back. From the outside, he looked like a grieving husband, a man watching his wife waste away. But inside, he was already moving on. Angela's body was failing, and while she was fighting to survive, James Craig was making plans. By now, doctors were beginning to suspect foul play. Something wasn't adding up. And then, Angela's toxicology report came back. The results? Deadly. It starts with a question, typed in the dead of night. How much cyanide is lethal? A single search. A single moment of curiosity. Or something far more sinister. This wasn't just another late-night internet rabbit hole. This wasn't for a crime novel or a chemistry project. This was real. March 4th. How many grams of pure arsenic will kill a human? March 5th. Is cyanide detectable in an autopsy? March 6th. How to make poison at home? March 7th. Top 5 undetectable poisons. These weren't random searches, these were plans, calculations, the careful, deliberate steps of a man looking for the perfect murder. And just days later, the orders began. A package, small, unmarked, deadly, potassium cyanide, ordered using a work email, purchased through a dental practice, a poison with no medical use in dentistry, a poison that kills silently. 3 days later, the package arrives, delivered to a well-respected dentist, a father of 6, a husband. And then, almost as if by coincidence, his wife falls ill. The poisoned protein shake morning. The kitchen is quiet. A blender whirs. A thick, creamy shake swirls inside. Angela Craig had no reason to be suspicious. For years, she had started her day with a protein shake. It was part of her routine, part of her commitment to staying healthy, strong, present for her children. And James knew this. He knew exactly what to mix in. The powder dissolves almost instantly. It clouds the liquid for just a moment, then disappears. She drinks, and within hours, the first symptoms appear. Her head pounds. A wave of dizziness hits. Her stomach turns. The walls around her tilt and shift. A text message. I feel weird. My head is killing me. James responds casually. Did you eat today? Maybe it's just your blood sugar. His words are calm, dismissive, as if he doesn't already know exactly what's happening. A secret affair, a failing marriage. While Angela is fighting for her life, James is texting someone else. I can't wait to see you. His mistress. A woman thousands of miles away. A woman he promised a future to. A future without Angela. Angela, who is lying in a hospital bed. Angela, whose body is shutting down. Angela, who still believes her husband is the man she married. But others are beginning to suspect. A coworker, a friend, a medical professional, someone who knows something isn't right, a single email sent to a supplier. Why do we have cyanide at the office? This isn't a material we use. The response is immediate. A simple question turns into panic. The supplier had no idea, and now someone else does. The Google searches, the receipts, the emails, the text messages, a trail of digital breadcrumbs left behind by a man who thought he was untouchable. And then, one final search. Can police trace poison purchases? The question of a man who feels the walls closing in, a man who is realizing, too late, that he's left behind a story. A story written in orders and receipts, in browser histories and deleted messages. A story that law enforcement is already beginning to read. March 15th. It happens again. Angela Craig wakes up feeling worse than ever. The headaches, the nausea, the dizziness, worse than before. She stumbles through the house, gripping the furniture just to stay upright. Her breathing is shallow. Her vision blurs. She knows something is wrong. She sends another text to James. I feel awful. Something isn't right. James doesn't hesitate. Go to the hospital. I'll meet you there. His words are reassuring, but his actions tell a different story. Angela is rushed to the hospital. Her condition is deteriorating fast. Doctors are baffled. Tests come back inconclusive. Her organs are failing, but there's no clear reason why. By the time James arrives, she's already slipping into unconsciousness. But James Craig isn't just worried about his wife. He's also texting someone else, his mistress. I can't wait to see you, he writes. Soon we'll finally be together. Her name is Karen Kane, an orthodontist from Texas. She thinks she's found a man who adores her, a man who is willing to leave his old life behind for her. What she doesn't know is that his old life is about to end in a way she never expected. Because as Angela lies in a hospital bed, unresponsive, James is booking plane tickets. A romantic getaway, just days away. But something is wrong. Angela isn't supposed to still be alive, and James is starting to get nervous. James Craig was drowning in debt. His dental practice was failing. His finances were in ruins. Years of bad investments, risky business decisions, and personal spending had left him barely staying afloat. He owed millions. He had maxed out credit cards. He had taken out loans that he couldn't pay back. And Angela had life insurance. It wasn't just about love. It wasn't just about wanting a new life. It was about money. Money that James desperately needed. And as Angela's condition worsened, so did James's patience. It was time for the final dose. March 18th. Angela's body can't fight anymore. She slips into a coma. Her breathing is labored. Machines take over. And then her heart stops. A devoted mother, a loving wife, a woman who trusted the man beside her. Dead. James stands at her bedside. He watches the machines go silent. He watches as the doctors call it. But there are no tears, not from him, because as the staff begins to process Angela's passing, James is already preparing for what comes next, a life without her, with another woman, with a payout that would solve all his problems. Or so he thought, because what James doesn't know is that Angela's death is about to raise more questions than he ever expected. At first, doctors don't suspect foul play. Angela's symptoms had been strange, mimicking food poisoning, a stroke, even a neurological disorder. But then, the toxicology report comes back. Cyanide, a lethal dose. And Angela had no medical reason to have cyanide in her system. The hospital calls the police, and James Craig, the grieving husband, is about to become something else entirely. A suspect. March 19th. Just one day after Angela Craig takes her last breath, a quiet call is made from the hospital. Not to the family, not to friends, to the authorities. There is something in Angela's system that shouldn't be there. Something that should never be there. Cyanide. A lethal, fast-acting poison. The kind used in executions, the kind that kills silently. And now, detectives want to know why. It doesn't take long for the pieces to fall into place. A woman, healthy, active, a mother of 6, doesn't just collapse without reason. Angela's symptoms were sudden, unexplained, progressive, and most importantly, they started at home. Detectives retrace Angela's final weeks, her hospital visits, her texts, her declining health. Then, one detail stands out. Angela herself had wondered if something wasn't right. "I feel like I've been drugged." It was a text message. A message she sent before she died. And now, detectives are listening. Investigators begin looking closer at James Craig. At first glance, he plays the part of the grieving husband. He tells family and friends he's devastated, that he doesn't understand what happened, that Angela's death was a mystery. But behind closed doors, something else is happening. James is texting his mistress, "I can't wait to hold you. I need you. We're finally going to be together." He doesn't sound like a man who just lost his wife. He sounds like a man whose problems have just disappeared. But what James doesn't realize is that investigators are already inside his world. They start digging through his emails, his internet searches, his recent orders, and then they find it. A purchase, cyanide, ordered under James Craig's name, delivered to his dental practice. There is no medical reason for a dentist to order cyanide. And then, another receipt. Arsenic, another poison, another purchase. And now, investigators have a question. Was Angela always the target? Or had James been experimenting? March 22nd. James Craig is brought in for questioning. At first, he denies everything. He is calm, collected, emotionless. He acts confused when police mention cyanide. He pretends not to understand how Angela could have been poisoned. But then, detectives show him the receipts, the emails, the timestamps. James pauses. He leans back, crosses his arms, adjusts his seat, and then he does something unexpected. He laughs, not a loud laugh, not amusement, a nervous chuckle, a flicker of something breaking beneath the surface. Because James Craig knows they have him. Months later, in the courtroom, James Craig looks different. The confident, well-dressed dentist is now thin, pale, tired. He avoids eye contact. He blinks too much. He clenches his jaw when certain evidence is read aloud. But the biggest moment? When the prosecution plays Angela's final text messages. "I feel like I've been drugged. Something isn't right. I don't understand what's happening to me." The courtroom is silent. Angela's sister wipes away tears. Her children sit motionless, staring at the man who was supposed to protect them. And James stares at the floor, because there's nothing left to say. A once respected dentist, a father of 6, a man people trusted. Now, a murderer. Neighbors are stunned. Patients can't believe it. Angela's friends and family are shattered. A woman who gave everything to her husband, who believed in him, who had no idea he was planning her death. James Craig thought he had planned the perfect murder, but in the end, it was his own mistakes that sealed his fate. The courtroom is packed, the air is heavy. A man who once smiled for family photos, who once walked the halls of his dental practice shaking hands with patients, now sits in an orange jumpsuit, his hands shackled. James Craig is about to stand trial for the murder of his wife. But no one inside this courtroom is prepared for what they're about to hear. Because in the weeks leading up to this moment, investigators have uncovered something even darker than anyone imagined. Angela Craig's death was no accident. It was a plan. A plan that started months before she even fell sick. And now, the world is about to hear exactly how he did it. The prosecution wastes no time. From the moment they step up to the podium, they paint James Craig not as a grieving husband, but as a calculating killer. This was not a crime of passion, the lead prosecutor tells the jury. This was a crime of planning, of deception, of greed. And then, piece by piece, they begin dismantling James's carefully built facade. They start with the most damning evidence. The Google searches. Displayed on a large screen, in bold letters, are the very words James Craig typed into his computer before Angela's death. How much cyanide is lethal? How to make poison undetectable? Can cyanide cause heart failure? The courtroom is silent. Jurors shift uncomfortably. A woman in the gallery exhales sharply, as if she can't believe what she's seeing. And James doesn't move, because he knows this isn't something he can explain away. This isn't circumstantial. This is premeditation. The witnesses take the stand. One by one, the witnesses are called. First, the toxicology expert. A man in a white lab coat steps forward, clutching a folder. He explains in meticulous detail how Angela Craig was poisoned slowly over time. This was not a single dose, he says. This was repeated exposure. He points to a chart. A timeline of Angela's symptoms. A pattern emerges. Every time she felt sick, there was one common factor. Every time she collapsed. Every time she was rushed to the hospital. It happened after she drank something James Craig had prepared, the protein shakes. A murmur ripples through the courtroom. Angela knew something was wrong. She even told a friend she felt like she was being drugged. But no one suspected the one person she trusted the most. The man who slept beside her every night. The father of her children. The man who had been planning her death while kissing her goodbye in the morning. Then, another twist. The prosecution shifts gears. They introduce a new name. A name that wasn't supposed to be part of this case. A woman, not Angela, but James Craig's mistress. The jury leans in, screens light up with text messages, emails, love notes exchanged between James Craig and the woman he planned to run away with. Messages sent while Angela was still alive, while she was dying. A text appears on screen, a message from James to his mistress. We'll be together soon. The jury stares at the words, absorbing their meaning. Because now, it's all clear. Angela's death wasn't just murder. It was the final step in a plan for a new life, a new beginning, without her. And James Craig thought he had erased all the loose ends. But he forgot one thing. Angela Craig wasn't just a wife. She was a mother, a sister, a friend. And those who loved her never stopped asking questions. Then comes the moment no one will ever forget. The prosecution calls their final witness, Angela's sister. She steps up to the stand. Her hands tremble slightly, but her voice is strong. She tells the jury about Angela, her kindness, her loyalty, her dreams for the future. Then she looks directly at James. Her voice wavers, but she speaks anyway. She trusted you. James doesn't blink. He doesn't shift. He just stares at the table. Because for the first time, he is hearing, out loud, what he has done. Angela Craig is dead. Because of him. James Craig's attorneys scramble for a defense. They argue it was a medical accident. They say James had no intention of killing Angela. They try to convince the jury that he loved his wife. But the evidence, the searches, the affair, the receipts, it's too much. The jury doesn't look convinced. And when closing arguments begin, the prosecution leaves them with one final thought. This was not a mistake. This was not a moment of rage. This was a plan. A man who wanted to be free, so he decided his wife had to die. A heavy silence falls over the courtroom. And now, the decision is in the jury's hands. Will they see James Craig for what he truly is? Or will he walk free? The jury has been deliberating for hours. Inside the courtroom, the tension is suffocating. Angela Craig's family sits in the front row, hands clasped together, waiting, hoping. On the other side of the room, James Craig sits motionless. His eyes are locked on the table in front of him. His lawyers whisper in hushed tones, but James doesn't respond. Because in just moments, his fate will be decided. The door swings open. The bailiff steps forward. All rise. The jury has reached a verdict. The foreperson stands, a piece of paper trembling in their hands. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. A sharp gasp echoes through the courtroom. Angela's sister covers her mouth, tears streaming down her face. Her children, her 6 children, will never get their mother back. But today, justice has spoken. James Craig doesn't flinch. No reaction, no tears, no remorse, just an empty stare. Maybe, in this moment, he realizes this is it. The lies, the deception, the planning, none of it saved him. The judge wastes no time. He clears his throat, looks James Craig directly in the eyes, and delivers the sentence: life in prison. No parole, no second chances. For James Craig, his freedom is gone forever. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarm, cameras flashing. Angela Craig's family steps forward. Her sister, still wiping away tears, grips the microphone. Her voice shakes, but her words cut through the noise. Angela should be here today. A heavy pause. She was a mother, a daughter, a friend, and she deserves so much more than this. She takes a breath, looks up at the sky. We got justice today, but we will never get Angela back. The case of James Craig sends shockwaves across the country. Social media explodes. News headlines flash across screens. Dentist found guilty in wife's cyanide murder. Justice for Angela Craig, the husband who thought he could get away with murder. True crime forums dissect every detail. Experts analyze James's behavior, his motives, his mistakes. Podcasts and documentaries scramble to cover the shocking twists. And one question lingers in everyone's mind. How did no one see the warning signs? James Craig is now in prison, a maximum security facility, a place where the doors never unlock from the inside, where time moves slowly, where the walls never change. Gone are the expensive suits, the dental practice, the life of luxury he wanted. Now it's a cold, hard cell, a metal bed, a number instead of a name. And for the rest of his life, he will wake up every day knowing exactly why he's there. Not because of a mistake, not because of bad luck, but because he made a choice to end his wife's life, a choice that led him here. And now, he will never leave. Angela Craig's story is one of betrayal, but it's also a story of warnings ignored. Because looking back, there were signs. The secret emails, the financial struggles, the controlling behavior, the sudden illnesses with no explanation. And perhaps the most chilling part? Angela herself suspected something was wrong. She felt it. But she trusted the man who vowed to love her. She believed him until it was too late. For anyone watching, for anyone listening, let Angela Craig's story be a reminder that sometimes the biggest danger isn't a stranger in the dark. It's the person sleeping beside you. And the real horror is never knowing until it's too late. Angela Craig's story has come to an end. A mother is gone. A family is forever changed. And a man who thought he could get away with the ultimate betrayal will never walk free again. Justice was served. Or was it? Was justice truly served? Angela's loved ones will never hear her voice again. Her children will never feel her embrace.